Hey, this is the Hard Truth of Tony Shaffer, powered by Sig Sauer. Never settle. I had a choice of what I carried in combat. I carry the best. The best is Sig Sauer. Never settle. Always have a Sig available if you need a weapon. And we are on the America Out Loud Talk Radio Network, also available on the America Out Loud Podcast Network. Check us out. Project Sentinel, projectsentinel.net, and the London Center for Policy Research, londoncenter.org, and on every known social media site on the planet: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, etc., etc., etc. So I'm excited to be joined today by someone I admired from afar a long time, because he's been an amazing analyst of things that people just don't see sometimes. And so we're joined today by Andrew from Run, Don't Walk. Andrew, welcome to the Hard Truth with Tony Shaffer.
Hey, Tony.
Hey, Andrew.
Yeah, and I have to say that my everyday carry is a P365. So
I got one right behind me. Good on you. So you should come shooting with us at 6 Hours sometime. I don't know where you live, but we do try to go up, and they have a great experience center that's like amazing. I haven't been there yet. Last time we were there, they were just finishing it up, so we had to look longingly at it from across the road, unfortunately. So.
Oh wow, that sounds very. I'm gonna have to take you up on that.
We'll have to look. We're going to be announcing some stuff on that soon, so I'll keep you in the loop on that, because some other going to have another special guest join us up there sometime soon. So without further ado, I got to ask you: are we at an inflection point?
According to Joe Biden, we've been at an inflection point for like the last decade and a half. So yeah, I think we are. It's I hate that term. It's a medical term, but in politics, everybody's like, oh, well, it's like a big change coming, or a change is happening. It's like, no, not really. I mean, everything's always changing. Politics.
So, well, you do a brilliant job of laying out every time he says it. I mean, I don't know if you could catch every time he said it. He said it so many times. I mean, I think you probably would have had a 5-hour, Gone with the Wind level episode of all of them saying it. With that said, you pick the best, and you kind of break it down. In one case, he's saying it's physics. Another case, it's mathematics. I mean, holy cow. And then he starts talking about when you're driving, and by the way, I found out last night, I hate to say this, he's right. I actually got stuck in a loop of 2 degrees, and I was in Norfolk driving in circles for like 3 hours last night. So apparently, if you only go 2 degrees and you can't get off of it, you really are at an inflection point, and you get stuck on a beltway,
Joe Biden basically says, it's an inflection point is like when you're driving down a highway, and if you turn the wheel, and it could be anywhere from 2 degrees to 90 degrees,
right?
According to Joe Biden, because he's a mathematical genius, like everything else, that you can never turn back and get in the same path ever, right? Like what does it even mean?
Well, maybe he's not driven for a while, but between you and me, well, who doesn't take a 90-degree turn on the interstate, right? I mean, it happens every day, right?
It's safe.
So let's get into the economics, because he talks so much about that.
Oh, you mean Bidenomics?
The Bidenomics, and there's several things we need to break down. And you did a great video on Bidenomics. Can you tell me what you believe Bidenomics to be?
Utter failure. that's the Bidenomics is Joe Biden, like just today.
Yeah.
They put out a video. I think the Democrats put it out. They posted it on Twitter from a speech yesterday where Biden is saying that Bidenomics is about jobs, and we've created so many jobs. And but in the video they show Trump saying that one of his main priorities is jobs.
Right.
And then they show that Trump lost the most jobs during his presidency. It's like, there was a little thing called the global pandemic.
Yeah.
It's not that his policies, destroyed jobs.
Right.
It was a worldwide event. But then when inflation goes high under Biden, it's like, oh, everybody has inflation. we're handling it the best. So it's all spin.
And he stopped.
Bidenomics is a complete BS.
And he stopped. Some reporter a while back, when he was asked this question, and he basically said, "Well, you know, when I came into office, you remember how bad it was. Like,
yeah, the economy was reeling, the pandemic was raging, and you know, if you look at the numbers, I don't know the exact figure,
yeah,
but if you're going to say, oh, well, I created the most jobs ever, like in the first 2 years of my presidency than a president in 4 years, Trump there were more jobs created, they were recovered, but created under Trump during his last 6 months and 3 months than any other president in history.
right.
But that's dishonest. Right. And that's the same thing. Most of the jobs, like Joe Biden says, it's 13 point whatever million jobs. He's created new jobs. They're not new jobs. It's people going back to work
Right.
from the pandemic.
And this is, I don't consider what you do as political at all. I think it's simply examining the reality in which we live and putting it into context. And I think that's important. And I don't understand how people on the left have become so detached from the reality in which we live, how facts are not facts, how stats are not stats, how you can allow a president in the form of Joe Biden to literally lie constantly. And I remember the old days. I advised the Trump administration in several areas. And I remember in the old days, Sean Spicer and the other spokesman just getting pilloried over any little thing that Trump said that was an opinion. I mean, it's a lie. No, it's an opinion. No, it's an interpretation. But in Biden's case, especially on Bidenomics and some of the other things he tries to focus on and state, he basically flat out lies. It's almost, remember, you're young enough or old enough to remember the X-Files. Remember the X-Files? They used to have apology as policy. In this case, it's lying as policy, I think, in the beginning. And that's all it is. It's lies. But nobody is willing to talk about this except you. I mean,
the media cover for Joe Biden in such a blatant way.
Yeah.
For example, the Washington Post, they had like an entire division that was dedicated to Trump, like all things Trump, and they have a running tally of his lies and misleading statement, and it's something like 30,000 lies, which is it. And if you look at them, if you actually look at each one, it's all complete. It's ridiculous.
Right.
It's like, Trump said he didn't. Trump was like saying that he had meetings one day, and he was having meetings at Bedminster, and then the Washington Post goes, no, he was playing golf. It's like, according to this Instagram, it's like, well, wait, you can have meetings. First of all, golf was practically invented for meetings. So,
true.
Why is this misleading or a lie? But in the meantime, Joe Biden, and this is one of the only things that they've really said anything about. They've given him a bottomless Pinocchio on, him saying, I've lowered the deficit by $1.7 trillion, which is absolutely not true.
Yeah.
But instead of having a running tally, they were like, we're going to do it for the first 100 days and see where it goes. And then, I mean, you'd think that they would care that there would be any kind of journalistic integrity, and it's just like, no, we covered it for 100 days and that's fine. That's all we need to do. It's like there would be 10,000 of these lies if they covered Joe Biden with the same energy, but they won't, because they're hand in hand with each other.
Well, the energy thing we'll get to in a second, but let's go to the next topic on my list of things. This is kind of a fanboy review of some of your best stuff, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you.
Math is hard. So let's talk a little bit about math is hard. So why is math so hard for Joe Biden and his folks?
Well, because they keep moving the goalpost. It's like when, for example, when you have 2 quarters of negative GDP, that's officially a recession.
Right.
And they came out and they're like, oh, no, it's different. It's different because there's other indicators. It's like it's supposed to be measured broadly. And it's like, if it was Trump, they'd be screaming that it was a recession.
Right.
But they're just so dishonest. And the same thing with we lowered the deficit. No, you didn't lower anything because pandemic spending stopped. And so we spent less in the next year than we spent the previous year. That's what a deficit is.
Yeah.
There would have been a giant lowering of the deficit, but Joe Biden decided he wanted to spend another $2 trillion in stimulus and infrastructure and all this stuff. And it would have been an even bigger decline. But he's like, oh, we lowered $1.7 trillion. It's like, okay, fine. If it's so easy, do it again next year.
Right.
And you can't, because they're spinning it. They're dishonest. It's not that they're bad at math. It's just that they're liars.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I had real issues, and I've had several other guests on to include members of Congress. We had Eli Crane on just a few days ago. I've talked to Andy Biggs, Scott Perry, and several folks. I'll be doing some
name dropper.
No, and Tom Massey. I mean, no, I advise these guys. I mean, back in the old days,
I'm kidding.
Because I used to work with Walter Jones, the late Walter Jones, God rest his soul. Walter and I were very close friends, and I advised the Freedom Caucus on national security stuff. So I know a lot of these guys. So anyway, and I think we're gonna. Did we have Thomas? Anyway, it all blurs together. Thomas Massey is going to come on. We're going to do something with Thomas, and one of the things I've noted, and I do believe that the economy, our economic interests and success is linked directly to national security. Trump made that point well. I used to do things all the time with several members of his economic team talking about the link between national security and our global interests. And boy, we could go down that rabbit hole with Blinken and Janet Yellen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who is like, do they pick people who look like garden gnomes to be senior representatives in certain, like she and Fauci? I wonder who would be the better garden gnome. I don't know if I should ask that question. I might get in trouble. We might get in trouble for that. Don't answer that. So I think Fauci would be a better garden gnome because he's got the better nose for it. If you're going to be a garden gnome, you should have the right nose. I don't think Janet has the right nose, but I digress. Let's get back on topic.
Remember, by the way, when this was a few years ago, this is maybe like 2015, where Janet Yellen was on stage and she had like a mini stroke or something. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah.
And nobody says anything about it. It wasn't even a big story. It was just like, oh, oops, she's fine, just like Joe Biden's fine.
It's like, yeah, and the whole every time he does something, it's like the whole I think you were talking about the bag on stage, the black bag recently in one of your videos, going through who put that bag on the stage, all the recriminations.
Yeah, it was CNN. So Joe, for your audience, Joe Biden was at the Air Force Academy giving a speech.
He was,
and then he was walking to go back to his seat,
mm-hmm.
and he tripped over a sandbag that was holding his teleprompter in place.
Yes.
And so the news media barely covered it. And on CNN, they said it was a misplaced sandbag. Misplaced. Yeah. Really? I didn't realize that the thing that was holding the teleprompter down was misplaced. Where was it supposed to be? And then there's all these conspiracy theories from people on Twitter. They're going, oh, wow. You don't know. I'm sure that some of his details, some of his Secret Service detail are mega, and they did it on purpose. And they didn't move out of the way. And like, you people are nuts. You people are cranks.
Well, that's the thing. So, and you have Jean-Luc Picard, Marie, whatever her name is, the spokesman.
Corinne Jean-Pierre.
That's right. Sorry, I keep thinking she looks so much like Jean-Luc Pierre, I can barely distinguish him. Make it so number one.
Awful.
So
By the way, just
Yeah.
to digress for a second,
Yeah.
I think that Karine Jean-Pierre is the press secretary, that she's gone soon, because they've been holding other press gaggles and stuff with other people within the communication.
Well, no, I know John Kirby, and I've seen John. John is smoother than Jean-Luc is. I mean,
they all
Karine,
need,
Jean-Luc.
none of them need binders. Like, maybe to refer to notes real quick, but Karine Jean-Pierre, she can't answer a question without reading her answer.
That's true.
And like Olivia Dalton, who's the principal assistant press secretary, she was just looking like directly at reporters and answering their questions. Didn't even refer to the binder because she knows her stuff. Right. She's in Biden world. I mean, a lot of it's lies, obviously, but she knows what she's supposed to talk about. Karine, she's too busy being a historic figure that she doesn't have time to prepare obviously. But everybody else, like Kirby's smooth. Everybody, Andrew Tate's smooth, or not Andrew Tate, Andrew Bates. Andrew Tate, could you imagine?
Well, I was told John Kirby was sent over to help shore things up. And I got to say, you have to admit, Andrew, he's got the snappiest ties. I mean, he could be a madman walk on. He could have been there with Don Draper sipping. Maybe he does actually sip, martinis between takes. I don't know. So, but with that said, let's get back on some of the things that we're talking about relating to the administration. This is a difficult question for me to ask you. When did the Russians invade Iraq, and why are they not doing well? I just want to know, Andrew, because since you're the senior analyst on the internet. I want to find out why
they're losing because the Russians are losing because they can't capture the hearts and souls of the Iranian people.
Yeah,
and they're losing the war in Iraq because they're not there. I don't know. Just Joe Biden that was trending pretty hard.
Yeah.
And Biden screws up on the daily. Yeah. I mean, just yesterday he was slurring where he was saying that the computer chips are made out of redwood minerals. Like, like what? Are you kidding me? So whenever he, I think whenever he says like Iraq and stuff, that some of it's like muscle memory, because he probably said Iraq a billion times while he was a senator. But Joe Biden just can't. He's just so out of it.
Yeah,
he doesn't realize when he says that Putin's losing the war in Iraq, and it doesn't occur to him that he just said something stupid. He just thinks, "Yep, that's right. Of course I'm right."
Yeah, I know, and it's like I was equally baffled when they buried. At the time of taping this, they had buried over the 4th of July weekend the Afghanistan after action report by the State Department.
The classic Friday afternoon news dump.
Yeah. And according to Joe Biden, well, I told you all the Taliban would help us. What?
Yeah, he said I told you that Al Qaeda wouldn't be there. Al Qaeda is there according to the UN.
They are.
And they're actually using Afghanistan as a as like a launching point.
They are
for their attacks. And he's like, I told you they wouldn't be there, and that the Taliban would help. The Taliban helped, all right. They helped, all right. They helped murder 13 of our service members.
Right.
But I mean, I guess in that respect, he's right. But people asked, they said, well, what did he mean? And he's like, well, we're just going to let the president's word stand. Like, what? What does that even? What?
Well, that's the thing. It's like Afghanistan has become the Disneyland for terrorists because of all the gear we left. And the Taliban is running out our gear and selling it off to other folks who are not friendly to us. And it's become essentially, if you want the e-ticket to learn how to kill Americans, go to Afghanistan. They'll teach you, because some of the folks now in the Taliban were actually serving and trained by us. It's good. I guess in many ways, Andrew, it's better that we train those folks that are going to kill us. Don't you think? I mean, it just kind of it just shortens the cycle.
It's
and when
more
someone
efficient.
I mean, it's just like Joe Biden leaves the fourth largest military on the ground and just goes off and does things. What the hell? What the hell? Why does it matter?
Well, the thing that gets me, you get Biden defenders that go, well, the plan was that Trump set the plan in motion to leave Afghanistan, and Biden couldn't do it. He couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't stop the plan. He couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, Biden changes Trump's plans all the time. Our plan on the border, the vaccine plan. They're like, oh, Trump didn't have a plan. Like, no, he did. He just had a different plan that you didn't like or you didn't agree with.
So the last chapter of Operation Darkheart, my first book, is a path to victory, and it was something that parts of it they did use. As a matter of fact, I advised Mike Pompeo when he was over at CIA. This came up before he went over to state, and I felt very strongly it was time for us to leave Afghanistan. But I can tell you by the fact that I was involved in the planning, Andrew, that it was a conditions-based withdrawal with benchmarks that were clearly established and military overwatch, which if you read the report, military overwatch wasn't included. It's like, yeah, you deleted it, Joe. I mean, it was there when the plan, but you guys decided to use it. So Chris wanted to play. Chris, you want to play the segment with Sleepy Joe?
Mr. President, do you admit failure in Afghanistan? Mistakes. There was a report on Afghanistan withdrawal saying there was failure, mistakes. Do you admit there was mistakes during the withdrawal and before?
No, all the evidence is coming back there. Remember what I said about Afghanistan? I said Al Qaeda would not be there. They wouldn't be there. I said we'd get help from the Taliban. What's happening now? What's going on? Read your press. I was right. Thanks.
So the report is from the State Department, actually, about the withdrawal.
I feel that Joe Biden probably says what's happening, what's going on, like all day, every day.
Yeah. This is a trick question. So I actually testified before Joe Biden in the Senate Judiciary Committee on Able Danger, the thing I was a whistleblower on years ago. So, but the question is this: when one eulogizes the grand cyclops of the KKK, does that taint you for life as someone who basically is a white supremacist? Because according to the left, if someone on the conservative side once had commented favorably when they were 10 years old that, hey, those German uniforms on Hogan's Heroes, those are pretty snappy. All of a sudden, you're permanently a Nazi supporter. But on the left, apparently, oh no, the senator in question reformed. Like, really? He reformed? So that's okay to eulogize someone? I mean, how is it that they have that level of I mean, it's like the standard. I mean, as my friend Chris Plant always says, if not for double standards, the left would have no standards at all. So
that's very, very true. I mean, but and it's cliche at this point, but yeah, if this was Trump, if Trump left Afghanistan in that regard, I mean, oh my God, it would be, I mean, the only thing out, I mean, and nobody's gotten fired, nobody's taken any kind of accountability, but Joe Biden's polling has never recovered since then. I mean, it went below 50% and has never gotten even close to that number. So.
Well, but that's the point. That's the last thing I want to bring up because we only got a few minutes left is the fact that will the Democrats want him to run again? Because one of the things you did is you observed that he said the same thing in a speech 8 minutes apart. He's a one-man Groundhog Day. So talk about that a little bit because I thought it was brilliant when you discovered that. And nobody else said a thing about it. Nobody to this day. Yeah.
He basically, we were talking about how he goes, oh, inflection points.
Right.
Let me, an inflection point is is like what my physics professor would say is when you're driving down the road at 50 miles an hour and blah, 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 blah. But then 8 minutes later, he goes, yeah, I really believe it. I really believe we're at an inflection point. And, an inflection point is, my professor used to say that an inflection point, and he starts describing what an inflection point is again, when he just did it. And nobody goes, yeah, that's weird. That's awful. Like, is he okay? Did he forget? Did he forget that he just explained what an inflection point is? And it's not that he was driving a point home. It's not like he's like I said before, an inflection point, like his brain stopped and then he started explaining it again.
Right.
And because first of all, I think he's probably told that inflection point anecdote like a million times. So it's probably like muscle memory at this point.
But the thing was though, but it was in the same speech. It was like
the same speech.
Yeah. It's like just minutes apart, like, literally like Groundhog Day. Oh, by the way, so my last question, we have to wrap it up here. Is like, do you think they're really going to push Biden to run? Do you think he's going to be the candidate that they're going to put forward to challenge whoever comes on the Republican side?
Well, according to Twitter, that cocaine that was found in the White House, that was maybe planted by MAGA, Secret Service agents to make Biden look bad because MAGA will do anything to win in 2024. Well, I'm not even kidding. People are actually making. They're actually.
I saw that. No, I saw your video on this. Yeah. Well, and Andrew, this is the biggest mystery since the Lindbergh baby was kidnapped. Nobody knows who it is.
I'm sure it wasn't. It's not the most obvious suspect. I'm sure. I'm so sure.
The balcony, sweating on the balcony, and
they can't even rule him out. They can't. Can you go? Hey, was this what? Can you rule out that this wasn't a member? A Biden member, family member's bag. We're just not going to comment on that right now. Oh, okay, all right. But honestly, I don't. I will answer your question in a second, but I do not think that we're ever going to find out whose it is. I think they're going to say something. They're going to make up some excuse about national security or something. They're not. Nobody's going to go to jail. No, they might allude that.
So what you're telling me, Andrew, this is going to be like the grassy knoll moment in the JFK assassination.
They aren't there. We're never going to find out. It's never going to, they're never going to write it down. But we're never going to, that's my prediction.
All right. Well, that's good. Well, we got to wrap up for the first half here. We're just wrapping up for the first half of the Hard Truth, Tony Shaffer. We'll be back real soon with part 2. Hey, this is part 2 of the Hard Truth. Tony Shaffer, powered by Sig Sauer, Never Settle. I didn't. You shouldn't. I had a choice of what I carried in combat. I always carried the best. The best always is Sig Sauer. So, and Andrew also seconds that since he is a Sig Sauer person as well. By the way, you don't have to be. You can be any flavor of person to carry. Sig Sauer is non-denominational. They don't care anything about any race, creed, color. Just like Major Kong in Dr. Strangelove, we welcome all, so it's a great thing. And let me get on with this so I don't forget it. We are on the America Out Loud Talk Radio Network, also available on the America Out Loud Podcast Network. Check us out, projectsentinel.net, londoncenter.org, and Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, etc., etc., etc. And of course, our always shout out to Cherie Curry. I'm wearing one of her t-shirts today from when she was in Japan. Cherie Curry does our bumper music. Rock and Roll Oblivion, and man, do we feel like we're in oblivion sometimes. And we're back with Andrew. Don't Walk, Run. And man, is he running today? He's doing a great job of, we're kind of doing I just love his stuff. So we're just kind of going through some of his most recent stuff and talking about it. And we're joined by the effervescent and never cantankerous Chris Cordani is running the board. And he's on mute, so he can't hear us.
I glow. That's what I do.
He glows.
It's the behind the scenes stuff. You don't want to hear the factory working back.
That's right. They don't call him Chernobyl as his nickname for nothing. I'm just.
We don't need to see how the sausage is made.
So here we are. So we were just talking with Andrew about a number of things that relate to all things Team Biden. And, one of the things I think I'd like to pick up with Andrew, and Chris can kind of jump in and I think direct us a little bit, is that within the context of everything you do, you lay out, I think, the most rational and cogent analysis in a way that people who are not political can understand it. And I know I actually speak with Democrats on a regular basis, Democrats which have not lost their mind. I was advising Tulsi Gabbard long before she left the Democrat Party, because my friend Crazy Dennis Kucinich, I love Dennis, don't take that wrong way, Dennis, asked me to advise her, because he said basically, look, she's willing to listen. And I think that's the thing. You create conditions for people, I think, who would not necessarily think politically to listen. So, we do appreciate you joining us today and helping us,
thank you.
educate folks.
Once people get past my delivery and
your delivery's great. People love your delivery.
People need to get used to that, I think.
No, I love your delivery.
Once they do, I try and present things in a straightforward way. And look, I'm very critical of the Biden administration, obviously. But I've been critical on Trump too. I think Trump
me too.
Bunch of dumb stuff too. So it's I like to be fair, and I'm definitely there's one thing that I don't do that others in the sphere I don't lie, and I don't take things out of context. I might take something out of context as a joke, and it's obvious that it's a joke, but I'm never gonna take a Biden quote and make it into something that he didn't really say.
Right. No, I get that. Yeah.
I hate the dishonesty. I don't think, I mean, you can win by being dishonest. I mean, look, that's what the Democrats did in 2020, but there has to be a little bit of integrity. And if other people do it, I'm not really going to go out of my way and say, hey, no, you're wrong, Biden. He didn't really mean to say that or whatever. So, I try to be as honest and have integrity, unlike a lot of people. So if you want to check out my channel, I appreciate it. And
we're trying to promote your channel. I love your channel. And again, long before we met, which we met over the balloon issue, which is ironic, I think, in many ways. So, and yes, we did have the option. We had technology that we could have brought it down safely way earlier on, and it was a political choice to not do anything about it. Mm-hmm. And as we talked about at the time, I think you were, we talked about this, and I said, we're going to come to find it was actually doing collection. They couldn't stop it. They did all these things and allowed it to happen. They knew it, and they let it, and they lied to us, about the whole thing. So,
well, Tony, thank you again for helping me out with that, because, I definitely had questions about, what was going on, like why we let a spy balloon traverse the entire United States. And then their talking point was, oh, well, it happened under Trump too. No, it didn't.
No, it didn't.
No, it didn't. That's a lie.
It was a lie.
That's a blatant lie. And also, like, why couldn't have we shot it down over Montana, or why didn't we
could
like what you pointed out was that we had
non-lethal
laser technology where we could have basically poked a hole in the balloon and brought it down, like gradually.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great point. You were so informative to me in that video, so I really appreciate it, because I like to get things right, and you helped me do that, so
thank you. Well, but this thing is, you to that point, you were very careful about simply stating the facts for what they are, not what people want them to be.
I don't get into hyperbole,
right?
For the most part, I do get angry, and I do, but I don't really, and sometimes you can see it. My emotions I'm just like, I just can't believe that I have to talk about this, like over and over again. But yeah, I don't blow things out of proportion, and I do try and present the facts. And, like right now there's a lot of talk about what's happening with the White House and the cocaine gate.
Yeah.
And there's also, and actually here's another thing. I'm in the process of making a video about all these banking transactions.
Yes.
The Biden family. But I'm waiting for more records to come out from the oversight committee, because I want to get it right. and I also don't want my video to be irrelevant like a week later.
Right.
You know,
no one wants that now.
Well, no, I mean, but
I should point something out to you though.
Yeah.
What I want to throw at you is, as the cocaine, as far as the cocaine issue, did you notice when Karine Jean-Pierre was doing the press conference, she kept answering, well, I don't want to comment on that because we don't want to comment on this and everything else like that. We don't want to comment because the Secret Service is
it's
doing
under the purview of the Secret Service.
But if you notice, she snuck in it could have been a visitor. She actually snuck in the possibility. She floated the idea that it could have been a visitor. So somebody would take that and hopefully run with it. But
Which
she
they
kept
did.
saying they weren't going to comment on that. Yet officially, unofficially, it could have been a visitor.
right.
Oh, also, it's a heavily trafficked area. Is it really?
So
I mean,
Andrew,
trafficked in what? Cocaine?
well, let me ask that question. So that's the next place. So let me ask you, Andrew. You're very
Hey.
good about kind of prescience. Are we going to find a dead prostitute in the White House next?
I'm sure we have, and it's been covered up.
Well, I'm just maybe history will repeat itself, and they'll be looking for whoever killed the dead prostitute too. Just saying. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, if the Bidens want to do that, I'm just, I guess that's okay.
I thought the Democrats'
Andrew.
MO was to just throw them in the water and drive them into the water and swim away.
Well,
God.
I don't think they have any big cars that can drive off. Well, no, I guess they do. Don't tempt people, Chris. The Memorial Bridge. Just saying that's a pretty big bridge, and they don't drive very well. So anything is possible in Washington. So let's get go. So Chris, anything else you wanted to bring up? I know you had some questions and stuff. So
well, there are a lot of things that we wanted to discuss. I did note that you discussed we did play the soundbite from Joe Biden. I was going to add this to Tony's takes, but I want to throw this at you a little bit early. One thing I took away from the entire press conference, or whatever he discussed here, it wasn't a press conference. He was just making some kind of speech about how great Bidenomics was. Then he got the questions toward the end, and you saw him walk off. First, one of the things that should stick out to most anybody is when he said to the reporter, "Read your press."
yes,
The idea to me that said, it doesn't matter what the truth is because I'm going to tell you what to tell people, and that will be the truth that I want you to believe.
And
Generally,
and what that means is, you're not paying attention to what we're telling you to say, essentially. That's what that means.
yeah,
you're supposed to run defense for him, I suppose.
I mean, everybody was really hard on him about Afghanistan. But
rightfully so.
But it faded. That anger and the investigation, people, the journalistic curiosity about how things should have gone, why things went badly. It just 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, okay, we're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And they do this all the time. Remember the baby formula?
Yeah.
Shortages. Joe Biden was supposedly allegedly told months before, that there was going to be a problem, and he didn't do anything about it, and he didn't react. And they're like, well, who told him? Who was advising him? And they're like, oh, we can't say, we're not telling you. And the press was really angry about it for a little while. And then, Karine was basically like, I'm putting up a wall. I'm not answering any questions. And then they just moved on to the next thing. Or, hey, who told Joe Biden that there was a dead congresswoman in the audience? Who said, because he's like, hey, where's Jackie? Is Jackie here? And it's like, no, she died. She died
We're
2
here
months
celebrating
ago.
her death live.
and he's like, oh, she was on top of mind. What does that mean?
It's embarrassing for the press these days because for the last few years they've been running defense for Joe Biden. No matter what happened, no matter what he does, they've been helping the Democrats beat Trump. As far as rarely asking questions about Joe Biden being hidden underground during the campaign. And of course, this still happens. His handlers keep him as far away from questions as possible. And I guess it was a few months ago where they're finally getting upset and saying, we can't do anything here. Everybody's on to us, and we can't even feign journalism while we ask Joe Biden questions because nobody's letting us ask Joe Biden questions.
Right.
Well, there's Steve. So there's Peter Ducey though. Peter does a pretty good job, And I haven't seen him lately, by the way, too. I mean, I
I was
wonder
just
if
thinking that actually. I've seen a lot
Yeah.
of
Not at the press
designer-
conferences. No.
I should send him a note. I know him from the old Fox days, and he's a good guy. He's a good kid. I mean, his dad is Steve Ducey from Fox and Friends, and Peter is developing but he seems like there's like 4 people who will ask the hard questions, and it seems like they're always like distanced from. I mean, they just don't want him in the room if they can avoid having him there.
Like they never Karine never calls on James Rosen.
No. I know my friend James. I know James. Yeah. So
But, like,
she will not talk to James.
Kirby will answer questions from him, and then he usually like doesn't answer them and just like walks out of the room. He's like, "Yeah, I can't do
Yeah, I
this."
saw that with James. Yeah.
And that's happened more than once with the James Rosen question. Peter
by the way,
Edmond from Real Clear Politics.
Yeah.
Steve Portnoy from CBS News Radio. Believe it or not, he does pretty good. Like he actually asks some really good questions. Like he did the last I guess yesterday or the day before with the cocaine gate, and he's like, wait, why can't you answer these questions?
Yeah.
Here's another question. I want to throw this at you guys. Who asks more questions, the press or Karine Jean-Pierre? Because every time she answers, she sounds like she's asking a question. That's what she does. She really does. The upspeak's annoying. I can't stand it. Okay. I could never stand it. I don't like it when Senator Gillibrand, I'm from New York, so I have to listen to Senator Gillibrand when she's allowed to talk. And it's just horrid. Watching her is fun, but it gets annoying after a while.
Oh, I miss Jen Psaki, honestly.
Yeah.
At least Jen, I mean, it's the same. They're spewing the same lies, but at least she can actually speak English. She doesn't, like Karine Jean-Pierre grew up in Queens, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why she confuses has with had with have. Like she can't speak properly. It's bizarre. Like if you're going to bring somebody in for your communications department, they should be able to at least like speak the English language.
That's
crazy.
That's why she's historic, because she can't speak the English language. That makes her a historic figure.
It's so weird. I think she's gone soon. I think we're going to replace her with Olivia Dalton, but that's my prediction. Bookmark it. You heard it here first.
Not Olivia Newton-John. Olivia Dalton, right?
Olivia Dalton, the current principal assistant White House press secretary.
How many boxes does she check off, though?
She's a white mom.
Yeah,
and I assume that she's straight, so she's got everything going against her. But
well, is there any chance you think that John Kirby's going to announce a transition to being a girl, and maybe he would check a couple of boxes that way? I think maybe someone should say, "Hey, John, by the way, you can be historic by being the first figure." Yeah. He's a Navy guy, so those, I'm not saying Navy guys all do that stuff, but I'm saying he is Navy. Just saying, he's a retired admiral. So
I mean, he's actually pretty good in the press briefing. There was some consideration that maybe he was going to be like a co-host with Karine, that he was going to be there every day to kind of take the load off of her.
They could have been a great Rowan and Martin. They could have been a great Rowan and Martin.
Yeah, they have Kirby for that.
They would have been great. I don't know why they didn't do that. I would have paid to see that.
Yeah. What we do have now is Tony's Takes.
Oh boy.
And Tony's Takes is powered by Sig Sauer. Never settle.
Never settle.
So let's do it this way. We're going to make it Tony and Andrew's Takes. Let's have some more fun.
It'll be fun.
Let's start here. The far left and the collective's leader, Joe Biden, are still and will continue to scream about the Supreme Court's elimination of the student loan forgiveness plan. In fact, Biden said he still has a plan to make it happen. However, the real problem is the high cost of education versus the return on investment. That's what I say. I say those who are conned into getting those subpar PC studies, poli-sci, or professional activist degrees should not have their loans forgiven. They should demand refunds from these diploma mills for selling them a substandard product. What's your take?
I'll go first. Chris, Joe Biden's going to take some of that $113 billion, bundle it up in small bags, and put $10,000 packets on all the students' porches. It's going to be like Christmas, like a Santa Claus delivery of $10,000 out of the, and it'll be quietly done because it's a lot less to pay off the students than pay off Zelensky. Just saying. That's my take. Andrew, over to you.
From the Pentagon into I mean the whole there. This could be an hour-long segment, but these borrowers haven't had to pay anything for over 3 years now, and and Biden keeps saying, "Oh well, we're trying to give them a little bit of breathing room." It's like they've had 3 years of breathing room, and they don't have to, with no interest, by the way.
Right.
And then you're like. And their excuse is, well, the Republicans, they snatched it away.
Oh,
and now they won't be able to buy houses or start businesses. And it's like, okay, wait, if you couldn't pay off your student loan, how are you expected to pay off your mortgage?
Yeah.
Who's buying a house if they can't pay off their student debt? That's ridiculous. They're like, oh, well, this money is going to go back in the economy. It's like, yeah, they're going to go on vacations and stuff. They're not going to do. They're just going to waste their money. They're just going to take advantage. It's all ridiculous.
What is it? And there was one of these Hillary Clinton staffers who's now a assembly person or something in New York, where she lives in a $1.8 million home, was bemoaning. It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, what?
The spoiled ones just can't seem to pay their. That doesn't make any sense. What really bothers me is I still believe these young people are conned into believing there's some kind of career in activist studies that'll make them a lot of money, where they can just throw tuition hand over fist to these I'll call them diploma mills for a piece of paper that just says they were indoctrinated.
Yeah,
nothing. The federal government should not be giving money willy-nilly.
Thank you.
No, what they need to do is say, hey, you want to be an electrician, or well, maybe not in college, but let's say you want to do whatever, not like gender studies, like we can't we can't accept your loan proposal. It's like if there's no return on investment for so many of these colleges, and of course the colleges are super expensive because they know that the federal government is going to give them all the money that they need. So, and they're not fixing the problem. Even if they relieved everybody's debt, like if they just completely wiped it out, it doesn't address the problem. And we're gonna start accumulating more and more debt, in the next few decades.
Well,
so the federal government just need to stop.
Yeah, Reagan said if that what you subsidize, you're going to get more of, and that's exactly you're going to get more expensive education. That means absolutely nothing. But to that point, Andrew, I mean, this is something that I've been looking in the Constitution, and where does it say that the federal government can actually do things to give loans to people to go to school? I don't see that in there. I don't understand where it says in the Constitution the government can tell me what car to buy or incentivize what car I buy or what light bulb I can use for light. I don't see that anywhere in there, but somehow the federal government does all this stuff. It's just amazing. So
this is why, I mean, and for every policy change about light bulbs, that there's like 100 government employees behind that.
Exactly.
We're spending way too much money on everything. It's like Joe Biden talks about, I lowered spending. Like, no, you didn't.
No,
you didn't do anything.
The same goes with the schools, though, gentlemen. If you look at the fact that these tuitions are raising and the cost of education is very high, you're finding that these gender studies professors are making six figures. They're tenured. You have huge DEI or whatever diversity departments in these schools that are overpaid. I call it the diversity industry because there are people who really can't function anywhere else. The government, or at least the far left portion of the government, has actually created this industry where it produces nothing except indoctrinated children to allow these policies to be pushed forth for decades to come.
Right.
This is a problem, but then they come out, when these kids come out and they realize that the jobs aren't there, it doesn't matter to them because they're like, well, Just follow us, vote for us, and we'll give you free money.
And also when the federal government gives money to universities, like Howard and stuff, it's like have you seen their endowments? They're like, oh, we need Howard. It's very important to have an HBCU. It's like, maybe 60 years ago, maybe 100 years ago, it was like a vital thing for a certain type of student. But, like, why do you need to give them millions and millions of dollars? Their endowments are huge.
Right. Exactly.
And it's like, what are we getting out of it? It's just pandering. And it's, we shouldn't be giving any money to any university, like, period.
Right. Well,
especially not a private one.
To me, so much. Look, I had my college was paid for by the Ohio Army National Guard for the most part. I enlisted as an enlisted person, 6 years, enlisted for 4 years of college. It was a great program. I had to work my ass off to get my degree. Got a degree in environmental studies, so it makes me a credentialed expert, which the left hates because I constantly dog them on the fact that they're not following science or politicizing and projecting their own desires onto the whiteboard they call green energy. By the way, Andrew, real quick question. How many windmills does it take to build the dashboard of a Prius?
I can tell you how many it kills, how many it takes to kill.
Well, the answer is none of them, zero, because you can't. They produce nothing. Oil, Texas tea. That is what we use to produce plastics, and those are the things that go into all these cars. And so the fact is, there's no such thing as green energy. But I digress.
Oh, yeah, and I will jump on that and say that when all these people, they want to end petroleum, they want to end drilling. It's like, who do you like? Everything you own is plastic, right? The case, I know, it's like your iPhone, your computer, everything is plastic. Like having the oil industry around is a good thing. And they'll, like, what were we supposed to do? Oh, dig for lithium and like make everything out of lithium and get it from China? Like, that's not even going to be. Okay. I'm getting off the deep end.
No, me too. I mean, look, I was in LA recently, and I was just driving downtown. I'm sorry, Chris. I know we're screwing up your schedule here, but I was in downtown. I had to fly in and do some things with the production company I work with, and I just was driving through LA, not walking. Only losers walk in LA. According to the song.
Nobody walks in LA.
Nobody walks in LA. And that's true. So I'm driving through. It's like I'm looking around at all the cars. Literally, Andrew, I'm sure you've been out there. It's like there's no way they're going to switch 1/3 of these cars to electric by 2030. No way. No way. The grid can't handle it. You won't have charging stations. You have to build charging stations in houses. You have to have durability so these things don't like die. I once died in a Prius. I didn't die. The Prius died in the battery tunnel in New York, a taxi. It's like, yeah. So those things happen, but it's just insane. And so the lunacy, though, this has become their religion. This is like,
and even in New York, like think about Manhattan.
Yeah.
Where are you going to park your car to charge it?
Yeah, you're never going to have all the charging stations. No.
Yeah, no. Are you going to have power stations like at every single? It's not going to happen. It's a joke. It's a joke. They don't even think logically about it.
Yeah, the only power stations that work have Robert Palmer singing for them.
Andrew, if you haven't figured it out, we're big like music folks here on the show. So who does that song? It's About Damn Time, isn't she? What's her name?
Oh no,
what's her name? I mean, she could be a source of power, maybe. I mean, I don't. Maybe, I mean, she's pretty big. She could generate a lot of something. I don't know what it is. I don't want to say, but
more power than California in a. Bad way, for sure.
Here we are wrapping up another episode of The Hard Truth with Tony Shaffer. Andrew, it has been a true pleasure and treat to have you here to go through all of your great presentations. And again, people need to check you out, Andrew. Don't walk, run. You're on Twitter. You have your YouTube website. I get alerts. I actually do get your alerts, so I'm always looking forward to smoking a cigar and seeing what kind of sanity you're attempting to attribute to the Biden administration. So thank you for being here with us.
If I change one person's outlook on something, then I've done my job. But thank you, Chris. Thank you, Tony, for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun.
It was great having you.
Yeah, and Chris, we'll be back next week. And thank you all for tuning in to The Hard Truth, and we'll see you again real soon.
I woke up in a derelict delirium to a stranger's kiss and a broken